Well, hello again. Now, if you saw my last video, I talked about my initial trip, my first trip to Washington. Today, I'm going to be talking about my second trip up to Washington, up to Camp Jean there. And, well, when we got back from our first trip, my grandsons and myself, we shared our experiences with my family, and some of them were intrigued, but some weren't. You know, everybody's not on board with this. But my granddaughter wanted to come on a trip, and my wife was intrigued enough to want to go. So the next camp was coming up in September, which was a month or so later, and well, we packed up and we went to Washington. Now, once we arrived there, it was pretty exciting again for myself because I just loved being at the place. And my grandson, since he was already familiar with the property, he took the liberty to take my granddaughter all around, touring the whole place. So, and there was a lot of woods out there, so I wasn't worried about them. They were fine. They were fine. They're well looked after on that property. Now, my wife wasn't so enthusiastic about it. Now, when she got there, got out of the car, looked at the property, it was very hilly. The terrain is just very hilly, steep. Yeah, it was very challenging for just a normal person. But since she had already had 3 strokes at this time, her right side was very challenged and she had trouble walking. And she was wondering why she came and wondering why I brought her, knowing that she would have difficulty walking around everywhere. And to make matters a little bit worse, she left her braces at home. The braces that she puts on her ankle, it kind of helps it be stable. She left those at home, so she was without that. Now, fortunately, Cynthia happened to have some braces that she could use, and they did okay. That changed her outlook a little bit, changed my wife's outlook a little bit. But after that, I took her on a little tour of the property and let her see the place. But we didn't get all the way down to what is called the wetlands at the time, and it was quite a trip down. And I knew she would have trouble getting back up, so we didn't do that yet. But anyway, having seen a few familiar faces already, and seeing new faces come, we were just mingling with the people who had arrived, and we had one guest arrive. He was in, this is his first time getting into this field now, like it was myself at the time. But he was in law enforcement. He was a firefighter. So his mindset was, he was just very curious about what was going on with all this. And he was just very, very interested. So I guess the point I'm making here is the people that have come to this camp have been in all different fields, professional fields. So, I mean, everybody's curious about this. Some are, some aren't, but in all fields, people have come to see what this is all about. Because Dr. Matthew Johnson's invite is come and see for yourself. Well, the first night, Matt gets everybody together in the living room, and he goes over others' experiences to let others people know what they might see. Now, that's not saying that they will see what other people have saw, but just letting them know what has been experienced, just to kind of prepare them. Now, he also shares with everybody the Janu Bigfoot Forest people's connection with Jesus Christ and God. They worship the same God that, well, Christianity does. So there's that connection there. And with that being said, I just wanted to put that out there because it plays a big role in being there. Now, he also shares that there have been miracles happen there. There have been. That's not saying they're going to, but it don't hurt to ask. Anything can happen. And but it has happened there. And this particular weekend is going to be one of the huge, biggest miracles I think that has been seen there by the largest group. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Now, after Matt's introduction speech, we all went out to the Serenity Meadow. We had already taken our lawn chairs out there and got all set up. But you know what? Let me back up real quick. Let me back up. When we got there, we all chose our places in the forest where we're going to sleep at. So this time, we found a particular spot that all four of us could sleep in the same area. We weren't able to put our cots side by side, but we had to put them head to toe, all lined up. So that was pretty neat. But like I said, it's in the forest, and it's darker than dark out there. And it starts getting dark before it even starts getting dark in the forest. But back to the meadow, we were all seated, and just Matt kind of went over the wood pile, what to do there, how to do it. But while we were all sitting there, my grandson and I, we needed to go back to the house to get something. I forget what it was, but to get back to the house from the meadow, there's two different ways. You can go down, and you're there pretty quickly down the paths. But we went the back way. Now the back way was up in the corner of the wood of the meadow, and through the forest, around the pump house, and then down to the main house. Now on our way back, we come around the pump house, and we're still in the forest, right at the edge of the meadow, and we see something in the trees above, way up in the trees, beyond the wood pile a little bit, but way up in the trees. What we see is just a light show, flashing lights, moving lights, just a phenomenal light show. We're stopped in our tracks, and we're both looking at each other. We look up at that, and it's like, wow, okay, this is just part of what goes on here, but we're looking at it in amazement, and it slowly fades out and dissipates. And so we go back to our seats, not knowing what it was, and we didn't mention it to anybody else at the time. But as we're sitting in our chairs, everybody's facing forward, and Matt gets up in front of everybody and he explains that the leader of the Bigfoot Forest people, his name is Zorth, has arrived and will be joining us shortly. And he tells us that he's going to be coming through his portal down on a path beyond the wood pile, coming through his portal. So later, I didn't put this together till later. My grandson and I, the lights we saw, it all timed perfectly with the opening of the portal. So what I truly believe is we saw the effects of that portal opening and closing. That's what all those flashing lights were up in the trees. So we didn't actually see it open, but like I said, we saw the effects of it opening and closing, which was amazing to me. And so we thought that was pretty cool. Now, during this trip, there was an opportunity to go down and stand before the group, not facing the group, but to go down and stand before two Bigfoot Forest people who are standing there. I believe their names were, oh my goodness, I can't remember their names. Contreras? I don't remember their names, but I'll get that back later. But we were guided down to them because we couldn't see where they're at. Of course, we couldn't see them. They're cloaked, and when they're cloaked in the pitch black and there's nothing behind them, you can't even see the outline. You can't see nothing. So Matt guided whoever wanted to go down to stay a little bit to the left. Okay, you're right in front of them, kind of described as they were getting closer to him. And my wife went down on this one particular trip. She walked down alone. She's standing before. Those names keep coming to me, but they keep leaving me. Anyway, she stands right before them, and starting at the bottom of her feet, you see these little twinkly lights, blue twinkly lights, just dancing around her legs, the back of her legs, and up to her waist, and up and down there. And we all see it, and it's an amazing event. I don't know what it is or why they're doing that, but we know what we're looking at. And at the same time, up around her back area, portions of that begin to vanish in the darkness. Because you know you can see her just barely, but you can see her there, of course, and but it just becomes more black over her back, and that's explained to us that she's being hugged, and of course where those arms are hugging her at, you can't see anything. So we saw that for quite a few people, and it's just an amazing event just to see it. But throughout the night, people would just walk down to the wood pile. They'd spend 10, 15 minutes down there maybe and come back. And somebody else would go down, and just somebody else. Like I said, this would go on for a while. But while that was going on, I decided to take another walk over to the 3 o'clock trail like I had the previous trip. I guess I was hoping to see the similar orbs that I saw last time. Of course I was. But they weren't there. That wasn't there. But as I stood there, I'm looking down the hill and I see the glow rocks on the path. I can see them go down and kind of fade out as they go farther away, of course. So I'm looking at those, and suddenly those glow rocks get real blurry. They just become real blurry. And of course, the natural thing to do is blink your eyes a few times, rub your eyes, shake your head, and just try to refocus, but they're still blurry. I did that a few times, and they're still blurry. But as I was refocusing, after having tried to do this a few times, what came into focus was an outline, a head and shoulder outline. So I realized what I'm looking at, but it's pretty close. It's only about 5, 6, 7 feet away or so, and down the hill a few feet. So I'm looking at this. It's like I'm looking through a piece of saran wrap. It's just super hard to explain. But as I'm looking at it, I finally realized, like I said, what it was. But about that time, it faded or moved off to my left. And the only reason I knew that was because the glow rocks became visible again. And so in amazement, I'm just standing there realizing what I saw, and just amazed at the whole thing, because this is just seems like crazy. This is crazy stuff until you know. But when you know, you know. So yeah, I knew what it was. And I just felt honored that I was given that opportunity to see what I did, as close as it was to me. So, like I did last time, I wanted others to see this. I ran over, I got my wife and my 2 grandkids, and I brought them back, kind of telling them I saw something over there. And as we get back to the top of the little hill that goes down into the trail, I have them to just stand there. I want them to just stand there and just look and see what we can see. So my grandson's here, my granddaughter's here, and my wife is right here. We're just looking. Nothing's happening, but we're just looking. I tell them just to look, just be patient and look around, see what they can see. And as we're looking, my wife, who is here, begins to softly cry, a little whimper almost. And I asked her, what do you see? What is it? She goes, don't you see it? I said, no, what do you see? Tell me, what do you see? And she goes, it's a Janu, is what she said. He's right in front of Anissa. She said that he was leaning down with his face right in front of hers. So their faces were face to face. And he was just appeared to be looking right into Anissa's face, which is my granddaughter. But I couldn't see that. And I think the reason she was able to see it is because her point of view, looking at it through, or the glow rocks through it, is in line to where you could tell something was there, if that makes sense. But she was really, really moved by that. And my grandchildren thought they saw something move, but they weren't sure. They didn't see it well enough, I guess. But my wife sure had an experience, and I'm glad somebody did. You know, I wanted to see what I saw. So that was a super amazing experience for us, for me and her. And let me see. That's not the only outstanding, awesome thing that happened that weekend. Now, talking about my wife, like I said, she had 3 strokes and couldn't walk very well. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm jumping to Sunday, the last day of the camp. Mid-morning, everybody's up, out strolling around on the property. You know, we're kind of in the same area here, just strolling around and talking to each other. And my wife comes out, and I see her coming out by the house there, and I go to help her, and she goes, no, I don't need your help. And she just, I'm like, okay. And she has the braces in her hand that Cynthia let her use, and she walked right over to Cynthia, and she says, here, I don't need these anymore. So I'm just looking. I think that caught the attention of a few other people. She says, here, I don't need these anymore. Just so confident, you know. And Cindy's like, okay. Or Cynthia's like, okay. And my wife just says, I can walk, I can run, I can jump. Look at me, watch. And she's like a little kid, but because she was just so excited, but she ran down the hill, she ran back up the hill, and then she's jumping up and down, showing everybody. At the same time, she got her hands up in the air, praising God, just praising God that she was able to do this. And people were just so amazed. We were just dumbfounded, and I kind of was too, but I don't say kind of was, I was, but I say that because somebody else who was at the camp, I remember them coming up and asking me, well, how come you're not jumping up and down? How come you're not so happy? I mean, just like she is. And I just simply said something to the fact that I'm happy, but I'm not amazed, because I know what God can do. So when God performs a miracle, it doesn't necessarily amaze me, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just I know what he can do, but I'm sure happy when he chooses to do it. You know, don't get me wrong, but that was a super highlight, I think, of all the camps so far. But there have been other miracles that have occurred there, and let me see. Yeah, on this one, this particular trip also, I had something happen to myself. Now, before this trip, I was diagnosed with cancer, but I didn't tell anybody. Just my family knew. I didn't tell anybody at the camp. And complications along with that included, well, there hasn't been a night in a long time where I didn't get up and go to the bathroom 3 or 4 times, you know, every night. It's just, I never slept well. But the time I was there, I slept like a baby. Now, of course, Dejanu knew of my cancer. I didn't ask for anything though, but I slept like a baby. And that first morning that I woke up, I realized how that I'd slept through the night. And that happened every night that we were there that time. The only thing I concluded was maybe they were just examining me, helping me sleep through the night. I don't know. But of course, after I got back home, I was back to getting up every, all through the night. But my cancer, long story short, it's all in remission now. And I think they knew I would be okay. That's why they didn't really have to perform anything on me. That I truly believe that. And so it's in remission. It's been taken out 3 years ago. 3 years ago. So that was in a sense, a miracle for me. I just knew that they were examining me. I just knew it, for me to sleep through the night like that. I believe that's it on this trip. I'll post other videos down the road because as I'm explaining these trips, I'm sure there's things I'm leaving out because just the first video, I remembered a few things that I probably could have included. But I'll put a separate video for those. And other than that, I'll post the next video on my third trip to Washington because we did make one more, and more on that next time. Thanks for watching.